So here's what that can look like: turning a big God idea into your great idea. So, have you ever been in a position where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, downloaded into your mind was this big idea, right? It could be, the structure framework to starting a business. It could be the trajectory of your career and how it should be mapped out. It could be how you're even having a conversation and planning for it. And then all of a sudden, the idea lands, and somewhere between receiving the big idea and execution comes your great idea, right? So, this is where we start to change a big God idea into our great idea. And so the one of the reasons that we're not as effective, productive, successful, put whatever descriptive word you want in right here, is because we've attempted to take what God has already designed that was big, built in God, a big idea, into our great idea. And it looks like this. The idea lands and you're like, okay, that's amazing. I got a great idea. Right. And you start to add or you start to take away, you start to shift, you start to modify the big idea that God has already given you because maybe you don't believe that idea is good enough. Right. Instead of just executing on what you've received, you want to change it. For me, this it was also simple as this post. I understood that I was supposed to come and say, don't take your big God idea and change it into your great idea. But I also started to think about, well, I should open up the line to say, you know why you're not effective? Right? I started to modify what God had already given. And so I showed up here and I actually said, hey, be careful not to take a big God idea to shift it into your great idea. And that was enough. Another way that showed up in my life, I remember in 2016, almost to the year my mom passed away, that I got a big idea to host a women's tea. And I did that and it was so successful. And over the years, I've added my great ideas to it and it hasn't been, in my mind, as successful. And so this year, be on the lookout. We're going to have a women's tea. But anyway, this could also look like in churches where God has given a plan on what your church should do, the roadmap, the blueprint for your church. And then all of a sudden in the back room in your ministry meetings, you're like, oh, I have a great idea, and you start to modify what God has already given you. Same can happen in business. My point is, stop modifying God's big idea. Execute God's big idea before you start to add on your great idea. It's not going to be the same. It's not what he told you. And so, this is my public service announcement to you today. Allow God's big idea to be big enough. Let's go ahead and just get big. I'll talk to you soon.